And now our final presenter. Shelley Wood is a photographer, artist, and educator. She teaches many avenues of photography to all ages at the Doherty Art Center, the Contemporary Austin, Photo Methode Gallery, and privately. Her work is represented by Photo Methode Gallery in Central Texas and has been published nationally and internationally. Shelley's work continues to exhibit around the country and is in private and public collections. Shelley has received 2 cultural contracts from the City of Austin, has work in the Art and Public Places collection, along with work at the Splash in the Edwards Aquifer exhibit. Recently, she participated in the Teen Artist Mentor Program with the Jones Center, where she mentored a teen for 6 months. Their work together culminated into Submerge and Breathe, which exhibited in Fresh Exchange this summer. Shelley has served as the director of the Darkroom Coop since 1994. There are 2 main bodies of work Shelley has created, Pools and Lambwood Ranch, along with other random artworks. Please help me in welcoming Shelley Wood.
Hi, everyone. So, we all love living in Austin, but with that comes allergies. So I hope that I can get through this without having a coughing attack or something. As Suzanne had mentioned, I have 2 primary bodies of work. These 2 bodies of work have emerged out of my lifestyle. The first one is Pools, which we're going to watch a video on that, and the video you watch will just pretty much explain all of it. And then the second body of work is Lambwood Ranch, which is, Lambwood Ranch is the name of our property that we live on in southeast Austin. And it's just about living in the country with animals and things that come up that you have to deal with in the country. And then, as Suzanne said in my intro, I always have other little random kind of projects of art that I work on. So, Doug, if you could please show the Pools video.
Shelley Wood has spent many of her years teaching children about water safety, but she also combines her other love, photography, for an even bigger lesson for children. News 8 Austin's Candace Byers has more on why Shelley Wood is this week's Austin Zone.
What I do is I teach kids to swim, and then I photograph while I'm teaching.
Shelley Wood does what she loves best, working with children and teaching the value of art.
I think this is art that the kids, it's good for them to see it as art. They can relate to it. It's something they've done, so it's not art that it's difficult for them to talk about.
Growing up on the Texas coast, Wood taught swimming lessons every summer. She began taking photos as she taught, combining her love for the water and the arts. Now she started a program in Austin where children learn about her art and water safety at the same time.
Swimming is fun and great, but it can also be very dangerous. And so this way we were bringing in something that was educational on an art level, but then also educational on a safety level.
You should not be swimming in water that's over your head.
As part of the education process, Wood has arranged for water safety instruction to be given to the children immediately after they view her exhibit.
One of the things that makes it really interesting to me is the dynamics when you're teaching a kid. A lot of the times the dynamics that emerge.
Emerging from Wood's lessons are children who know a little more about art and who have reinforcement in water safety. And her dedication to teaching makes Shelley Wood this week's Austin Zone. Candace Byers, News 8 Austin.
And if you'd like to look at Shelley Wood's exhibits online, you can log on to this website. It's shelleywood.net. And if you know someone who should be recognized.
That was a news piece from an exhibit I had from one of the cultural contracts. That was at the Doherty Art Center. And actually both of my cultural contracts was Pools. I had Pools and Pools 2. Pools 2 I introduced animals that are in the water and just took it a little bit further. And I'm going to show you, I grew up on the coast of Texas, was a lifeguard. My parents in high school put a swimming pool in the backyard. As my interest in photography grew, I started photographing a lot in that backyard with the pool and as I taught private swimming lessons. So as you can tell from the hair color of that news piece, this was not in the recent past. There was no digital when I was doing this work. So it's all black and white film. But the clear images that you saw in the news piece come from that black and white film. Those images just went through a process to be output onto the large transparent film. So these images are available in black and white as well, and these are just a random selection of some of those images that I had created back then. This, the one on the right, when I had mentioned for Pools 2, I started to introduce animals. So this was an image that started black and white that got turned into the transparent images. This film is called DuraClear. It's no longer made. It was made by Kodak. So the green octopus is actually a big transparent image that is hanging at Photomethod Gallery right now. The gallery I'm represented by is over in the Flatbed Building on East MLK. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Splash exhibit, into the Edwards Aquifer exhibit over at Barton Springs. Here's the black and white image, and then the piece I have in there is the door when you exit the exhibit. It's in a big bubble door, and that door slides open. So that's the black and white image, and then how that image got turned into the large DuraClear that's then put inside of the door. So I recently revisited this kind of work because I went through the Teen Artist Mentor Program through the Jones Center in the Contemporary Austin. The teen that I mentored when we first met, I found out she did not know how to swim. And she wanted to learn photography. So I said, well, why don't I teach you how to swim, and then you can explore your fear of the water through photography. So we ended up creating these 4 panels together. They were about yay high and probably about 8 feet long, and then you can tell they folded kind of like a soji screen. And then the DuraClear images, the transparencies you saw prior are no longer made, but the material, there is another material now that we use. It's just a clear adhesive vinyl. So these are the 4 images that we selected for our panel. And then I also did video. I don't have the video in here, but I did underwater video for this project, so it was really good. It got me to learn something new. Now, Lambwood Ranch. Lambwood is a combination of my husband's and my last name. His last name is Lambert. I also grew up with animals while I was on the coast of Texas. This was my first horse. This was her full child, offspring that she had, who got to live a little bit at our place out in southeast Texas. So again, the Lambwood Ranch work is about living in the country, raising animals, and just other issues you come up with or that happen upon you. I always say that our place looks a lot better in the photographs than it does when you're actually out there. I tried to take this work beyond the mundane chores of the day, and when someone is sick, or an animal sick, or you have a coyote attack, or you have a rattlesnake bite. You know, I try to go into more of the magic of it, and the life that animals can often lead, how magical it can be. This is actually infrared film. That's why it looks so dreamy. Oh, so this work, I'm still shooting black and white for this Lambwood Ranch work. I still have a darkroom, so I'm shooting black and white. All of these prints are hand printed and then hand toned. I do digital photography as well. I do both. I teach both. It's just for this particular body of work, mostly it's in black and white film and then hand printed in the darkroom. And then I scan a lot of those negatives so they're up in the cloud and they're safe in case there's ever a fire. So it's really great these days that we have, analog and we have digital, and then we can marry processes together. Our first Fireworks season out there was in 1999. Well, it was New Year's 2000, and we had to fight a fire. So ever since then, we always stay home every 4th of July and every New Year's Eve in case we have to fight a fire. And this is from a 4th of July. And that's a bottle rocket. Sharing, a lot of the goats we have are Angoras, and you have to share them. You're supposed to share them once or twice a year. This goat here on your left, we didn't share her in time, and her fiber had started to felt off of her. And I noticed it when she was running, and it was kind of flowing, and so I went over, and it was only attached right here. So I just pulled it forward. And she was also a very charismatic goat, had a big personality. Frosty on the right, he's our llama. He's the guard for our goats. Was really mesmerized with how long his neck was, and I had the hardest time expressing that. And then I felt like I finally got it with this one image. Again, this is part way through sharing. We've gone through many different areas where we share the animals from different, heights or different stanchions and things like that. And when this was going on, I was like, stop, can I please grab a light and put up a black backdrop? This looks very elegant. And so I call this one Dressed for the Oscars. And this was that first New Year's when we had to fight a fire. And that's my husband fighting the fire with a garden hose. About 3 or 4 years ago, I started doing multiple exposures, but I do them in camera. So I'm masking the lens off, part of the lens, shooting in one location, turning the mask and moving to another location. This one is a complete double exposure, so the whole frame gets double exposed a couple of times. It's not like half of it's exposed and then the bottom half is exposed like this one. This one, the whole frame gets exposed twice. Butterflies, I've tried to photograph the butterflies so many times, and it wasn't working out. And so I finally figured out a way where I could honor the butterflies and get them nice and big. This is another image that's double exposed twice. Full frame twice exposed. This is another one that's exposed, half of it's exposed, and I move the mask, move to another location, and then expose the other. This one, for me, I dedicated to the droughts that we've had, the trees that we've lost, all the trees that we've lost in the droughts. Frosty, our guard. Llamas can see really well. They can see really, really far, and they're tall. So I wanted to mesh him in with the clouds. I've also just been obsessed with clouds for the last 3 years. I really love clouds. Now, here's one of the random pieces I was talking about. And this one's actually digital, and this is the piece that's hanging here for this year. This piece also is a greeting card with a company called Palm Press. And if you, they turned it into a birthday card where you open it up and it says, "Happy birthday, hope you have a ball." Another random piece with color and digital. This was a little rescue goat that was brought to us a couple of years ago. We just accidentally have this color scheme going on at our place, black and white. I just found a black and white puppy running down the road like a month ago. It's black and white. I guess we have to keep them. Anyway, this rescue goat, she was like a week old when we first got her. No one would bond with her. None of the other goats wanted anything to do with her. But Frosty, our llama, has bonded with her. And he does anything for her, and she can climb all over him, and he just doesn't care. She's not that small anymore, though. Now, 2015, if you remember, was the year of the goat. So I decided to start doing selfies with my goats. I also did not get a smartphone until January 2015. You know, the smartphone camera, it's its own animal. It is a very different, like many other kinds of photography, it's a different avenue of photography. And so I started just having a great time with my new camera smartphone doing selfies with my goats. And now I love my iPhone. I mean, I teach iPhone classes. It's so much fun. But again, it's a whole different animal. And so I was told that I kind of took on the persona of whatever goat I was doing my selfie with. It wasn't intentional, but evidently people said that it kind of worked out that way. I don't know if y'all can read the titles. So this is Pinky. This is Flocka right here. Maria, this is Maria. This is baby Jane. This is me and Permy, who was the rescue goat. This is me and Teary. He's the alpha of the herd. But he is the scaredest when someone comes over that he doesn't know. This is me and Missy. Missy's very touchy-feely, but like a cat. Only it's on her terms. And funny enough, my very first museum piece in a museum is this image right here. It was through an organization called Photo Lucidia. They do a lot of great projects, and they had a call for the elevated selfie beyond the bathroom mirror. So I had entered several of my goat selfies, and then this is the one that they picked. And I think it just wrapped up at the Griffin Museum in Boston. With the phone, the times that we live in. This is Whitey. And y'all already heard that, but you can read it too. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to elaborate. Yes, sir. How do I what between digital and film? Distinguish? Well, the Lambwood Ranch, I started that in film, and so I've just continued it. And that look I do split toning in the darkroom, and yeah, you can do it digitally, but I just love the look that you get in the darkroom. I also like the darkroom. I like that it's hands-on, that it's not to discount working in Photoshop or anything like that. It's just a different process, it's a lot more tactile. And then it's dark in there. And, I grew up in the darkroom. So it's something that's very familiar to me that I really, really like. So that's why Lambwood Ranch has stayed that way. Although, recently, or a couple of years ago, I took my first cyanotype workshop. I'd never done cyanotype. And, I took my little 35 millimeter black and white negative, scanned it, ran it into Photoshop, inverted it, output it into a very large positive or negative, and then was able to do a contact print with a big cyanotype. So digital, it's quicker to me. It's not quicker to process it by any means. You'll often hear people say, well, the darkroom takes so much time. You spend a lot of time, which you can attest to. Digital, you don't spend any less time. It's probably just convenience. The phone's in my back pocket. I can pull that out. I can use it. A big influence would be I'll run out of my favorite film. Like I don't have any right now. it's hard to find. I know where I can find it, but I just haven't ordered any new yet. I've just kind of run out. So yeah, if I've got the film, my favorite days to shoot are cloudy. So then I'm like, today's a good day to go shoot. Or if I have, a project in mind, some of the Landwood Ranch stuff I set up, some of it just happens and then I capture it. And sometimes digital is it's just more convenient to grab the digital camera. And it's color, whereas most of the Landwood Ranch is black and white. So it just depends, what's going on. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Well, so the black and white, the pools, I'd been doing that work for a long time. I moved back to Austin in 94. I had been living in New York, and I came back here in 94. And even when I lived in New York, I would still go back home, and I would teach lessons for a month or two at my parents' house, and I would work on that body of work, and I was always printing it in black and white. And then I just kind of hit a point after I moved back. I was like, I want to go through the process of learning how to get some money to take my artist further, to output it in a way that I didn't have the money to do it. And then so I just started thinking, and I was like, I want to do these really huge transparencies, and I want to put lighting in there where it looks like it's pool reflections. And we had little containers of water with lights in them to create the reflections. And the images are transparent, so you needed some kind of, if you're in a dark space, you needed some kind of light behind them. So it just all came up. And then we had little bits of chlorine in the water, so when you walked in, it felt like you were in a pool. And then the splash exhibit, that was someone who I did assignment work for at Dell, because I used to do a lot of assignment work. And that's how I made my living as a professional photographer, but then I segued out of it, probably mid-40s. They needed a piece for that exhibit. Dell was sponsoring that door, and they had some lovely poetry by John Muir, and they needed a piece to go along with it. And she knew my work, and so we went through and picked out an image and turned it into a Duraclear and installed it in there. And then Percy, my teen artist, I have some of those pieces hanging in my home. And then she's seen the one octopus at the gallery. She really liked that. And she wanted, since we knew we were going to be swimming and she was going to be shooting underwater, she wanted to output her images the same way. And so she also had the idea for these panels. She wanted to do these kind of soji screens. And then, so that's how I revisited all of that. So that was really, it was a collaboration, but she was like, I want to do that, what you did before. So that's how I ended up revisiting it. So, yeah, I just wanted to display them in a different way. Yes, sir?
Do you were talking about transparency. Do you have a print of a semi-transparent surface?
Do I have them?
On a semi-transparent surface.
Yes, so this material right here, it's just called a clear adhesive vinyl.
What's it called?
It's just called clear adhesive vinyl.
Clear?
Adhesive vinyl. And I don't make those. There's a lab here called American Color Lab. I worked with them when I did those exhibits earlier on. And when they had the Duraclear material, which Kodak quit making. And now this is the material that they have. So I prep the files, the digital files, and then send them to them, and then they output them onto this material, and then they adhere them to the plexi that they're attached to, which is, it's not like your plexi that you buy at Home Depot. It's a really nice plexiglass that it goes onto. So, yeah, I still have many of them in storage at my home and around my home. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. American Color Lab. They're great. I'm sorry, sorry, along with these allergies, I'm a little hard of hearing. So that photolicidia, all we did was send them the files and they output them. So I didn't have to prepare an image and frame it and send it to them. They took care of all of that. And I'm not exactly sure, what kind of paper they output them on. I mean, they framed them. They're going to keep them. They'll keep them in their collection, and they'll have the show intact in case they want to exhibit it again. And I didn't go. One exhibit was in Oregon and one was in Boston, and I didn't go to either one, so I don't know exactly. I've seen pictures, but I don't know exactly the materials. And they're all pretty small. They're not real big. Well, I mean, that originated on the camera. The selfies are with the iPhone. So it's digital, yeah. The goat selfies. And that's one thing I was pointing out. It's like, there's so many different avenues of photography, and I don't stick with just one of them, although I primarily am doing the black and white film with the Lambwood Ranch. And I'm in a darkroom co-op. And we are heavily supported by an organization called College Houses, Inc. They've been around for a long time, and they have cooperative living spaces for students. And the co-op I'm in, that's why we exist, because we get so much support from that organization. It's one of the cool things that still, the older cool things that still is alive and well in Austin, from further back. Because it started before I even got there. Any more questions? Well, I've given Suzanne some cards to the gallery, if anyone's interested in checking out the gallery, if you don't know about it. And then some of my own personal cards there too, because I do teach at the DAC and the Contemporary and then privately, if anyone's interested. So thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you again.